All right. How is everybody doing today? We are here with you in the Action Lab. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a big, big show for you guys tonight. Probably one of our best shows we've ever done. It's going to be fantastic. We are going to be hitting a bunch of March Madness, and we are going to be making sure that we're covering all the ins and outs of the opening round and this initial part of the second round. So, Scotty, we are going to be rolling through it a little bit.
Yeah, no, so far so good. It's been a fun tournament to watch. You know, it feels good to have March Madness back after we didn't get it last year. I think it kind of helped me want it a little more this year and get a little more excited for it, like without having it for a year. And we've had so far a wild tournament. The side of the bracket that we're going to talk about with the second round today has absolutely annihilated both of us. Like we're just getting destroyed on that side, both of us. But we're still in a battle in our competition with brackets, so that'll keep it interesting.
Yes.
We'll dive into that. But so far, it's been fun to watch, man. Just days of games. Tomorrow's gonna be weird because it's Monday and there's gonna be more games. That's gonna be the worst part of it. It's like we got Monday and we got a slate of games, and it's gonna be weird.
Absolutely. Belly for Prez, ready to go. Let's go. Hey, Belly, you're ready to go for this big, big show and the rest of March Madness. In case you guys are new and you guys are just trickling in and you haven't been a part of this before, My name is Chris. This is Scott. We are your hosts for the Action Lab. We are all simultaneously being streamed on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube. So if you're in any of those platforms, go ahead, drop us a little hi. Tell us hi. Tell us how your brackets are doing. I want to know how everyone's brackets are doing. I know they're all really awful. They're going to be. You might have some amazing ones out there that who knows? Maybe you guys have picked the Oral Roberts upset. Maybe you guys have some of these weird ones that the Loyola Chicago upset in Illinois. Man, tell us how your brackets are doing.
At this point, if there's a perfect bracket out there, I don't know how that's possible.
No. There is zero perfect brackets. There is zero.
Okay.
As of this morning, or no. As of, I think, last night, there were 8 perfect brackets left in the entire world, at least through ESPN, at least, and I think most other channels. And then, as of this morning, all those ended up losing. So all of the perfect brackets are done. There's no more perfect brackets out there for anyone to come in and steal Warren Buffett's money. It's done. So sorry. The fact that there were 8 perfect brackets as of last night, though, that's actually kind of crazy. So big ups.
And we're about to have, I don't know if you're watching, there's a game going on. Oral Roberts, the 15 seed that we'll get into that upset Ohio State, is now just hit a free throw to go up 3 with 16 seconds to go against Florida. If they win this game, they'll be the second number 15 seed to ever make the Sweet 16. I don't know if you remember several years ago, Florida Gulf Coast making it to the Sweet 16, but we might have a second number 15 seed ever making the Sweet 16 if Oral Roberts can hold on to this win.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't really matter at this point for me on my corner of the bracket whether Oral Roberts or Florida wins. It doesn't even matter for me. I am just going to be
I think the other game that's later tonight, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, doesn't matter to you. Most games just don't matter. Right now, Villanova and North Texas is happening. Neither of us had those teams in that game. So it's just insane right now. Oh, we got to follow. There we go.
Rosie Rivera, thank you for following on Facebook. Appreciate it. It means a lot. Hey, thanks for popping in and supporting the channel. It means a lot. All right, and then Deb in the chat, Facebook chat, we have it popping up here. It's all coming in through live streams on all of our stream chat here. So is there another word for dumpster fire? Because that is where I'm at. I think everybody is having a dumpster fire of a bracket. Actually, honestly, my left side of the bracket is going to be a little bit cleaner, realistically. I'm looking at the left side of my bracket here. We had the Zags. I think I only may have missed one. Well, actually, I don't know how you count this one, because on the left side of my bracket, I have the BYU versus Michigan State UCLA. Even though I chalked in,
you get credit.
I get credit, even though I had Michigan State beating.
No, we said that on the show. You get Michigan State and UCLA.
Either way, Texas.
I got you missing. I think. Oh boy,
the Virginia game was the only one.
Well, the whole left side is also the bottom region, where I think you missed 2 there, because you had Texas. Texas lost.
Oh yeah, to Abilene Christian. Yep.
And then I think you had UConn in that Maryland UConn matchup. So I think you missed 3 there. So you were 13 of 16 on the left side. Nothing wrong with that.
So 13 of 16, I'll take it. I usually, it has to make up for the other side, because the other side is absolutely atrocious. And luckily, I don't have any big boys getting knocked out on the left side of my bracket. So there's that. That seemed to be more of a stable side of this, but we have a lot to cover. We want to kind of go over some of the big headlines from the opening day. Obviously, there was a lot of action, and there was a lot of storylines based off of who ended up winning, who's still in, who's not in anymore. And we're gonna just touch on some of those. So let's go ahead and let's just dive into it. Going in, this was our initial round of 32. going into the day. So, of these teams, we've seen some of these kind of, pan out over the course of the afternoon and evening. But there are some interesting teams in this as far as, who advanced and who made it to this round of 32. Scotty, as far as this goes, what were some of your big takeaways as far as seeing some of these teams make it through? We're going to dive into a couple of them here in a minute, but just real quick, just what are you thinking as a snapshot here?
My snapshot is, and I texted you this today after Illinois lost, even though we both had Illinois in the championship game. But I said on the Wednesday preview show, I said, what if the Big Ten's just average? What if it's, because I was like, what if it's bad? And I'm like, it's not bad. But what if the Big Ten is just competition against a bunch of teams that are average and they're really not as good as we think? And now, all of a sudden, I think we had 9 Big Ten teams in the tournament, if you include Michigan State, who is in the play-in. I think after today, we're down to 3. And the 3 that are left haven't played their second-round game. I think the 3 left are, Michigan, Maryland, and I'm missing one more. Iowa. Yep. So of the 9, 3 are left. None of those 3 have played their second round game. So theoretically, of the 9 teams, you could have 0 Big Ten teams in the Sweet 16, which would be insane. I think they'll probably at least get 1 or 2. But it's possible still they get 0. Pac-12 so far is undefeated. After the first round, the Big 12 was almost 7-0, and then Texas late last night lost by a point in a game they absolutely played terrible in. And Big 12's had some losses today with West Virginia and Texas Tech in close games there. But those conferences have looked good so far. But the Big Ten's my takeaway. I said, what if they're just not that good? And here we are. And you had the 2 teams that were in the Big Ten championship, Ohio State and Illinois, and they won 1 game combined in the tournament. Ohio State 2 seed lost. Illinois today was basically down double digits the whole way against Loyola Chicago. Like, it wasn't like a fluke loss. They got outplayed throughout that game today, and the better team won. So, I said, look out. The Big Ten could just be average, even though I picked the Illinois to go far, and here we are. You had Illinois and Ohio State in your Final Four.
Yeah. I've already been booted out of the whole right side of my bracket going any further. So I have a ceiling set where I'm at now. Now, I thought this was going to be interesting. How we were talking about some of the factors of COVID and some of the teams that came into the tournament and what those teams potentially could have either like rolled in and they were on a fantastic run going in, i.e. Georgetown, who they were just unbelievable, and then you had others who were like Kansas and some of the other teams that got knocked out of their conference tournaments. Virginia, and Virginia ended up falling early on as well. But some of those teams, you kind of think, oh well, Georgetown, they're the hottest team. Colorado losing their conference tournament in the championship game. Now, there's 2 different momentums going in, and there's all these different factors, and some of these have played out a lot differently than you would have expected. You got a bunch of upsets. You got North Texas or Roberts. CU looked like one of the best teams in the opening round. They were absolutely just unbelievable, scoring more points in this game than they did all season long. At any point, they were unbelievable. You had the UCLA, run in and win a game right off the top. So there was a lot. Ohio, all the upsets. So I think it was kind of unpredictable in a lot of instances here. Like, a lot of the teams that we thought were going to be strong typically, like the Purdue's, Winthrop was another one. Tennessee was a big one in the SEC that you don't see on this list. They got knocked out. Texas was a one that was picked.
Wait, stop for a second. Did you say Tennessee's in the SEC?
Or where did I say?
And yeah, you said Tennessee, but they got knocked out? I thought the SEC was just king.
So
I thought for
Alabama,
sure.
Alabama's still in. Arkansas. We have Arkansas, Alabama. Um,
Florida just lost to Oral Robert.
yeah, no, it's been kind of a weird one. But my SEC, yeah, as far as that goes, yeah, Tennessee. Yeah, Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean is coming in strong.
Is there any chance she was like able, like she was at the game and they showed her a lot, and half the time it looked like her mask was almost over her eyes, like it was really close. She looked like, listen, I appreciate them pulling her out there, and obviously she's a big basketball fan, but at this point, it's almost cruel. Like I don't think she's able to even see what's going on out there. And that
101
sounds
years
bad.
old.
She's 101, and it's an awesome story. But maybe we shouldn't be taking to her a basketball game at this point. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that they keep carting the 101-year-old out to the games. They actually had a ESPN highlight where they were like Sister Jean getting jacked up for this play by, I don't even know who the play was with, but they showed her.
Does Loyola Chicago become the best mid-major in the country?
They're making a name for themselves. I'll say that. They are, what they're doing. I don't know how. I don't know.
I tried to just ignite, like, mess with you right there, because I'm pretty sure there's another mid-major you like more than Loyola Chicago, but I wanted to mess with you and you didn't even fall for the bait. So.
No. I'm not falling for it. Deb, her prayers are helping them for sure. Praying on the sideline, getting her team to the ship, trying to do what she can. But yeah, I think the unpredictability was a big factor here. And I think I've talked to a couple people, with COVID being in the mix. There's a lot of people that are saying this is a year for a lot of these big teams to maybe not be as strong as they typically have, missing games over the course of the season. Maybe they, had some issues with canceled games and things. So how that impacted different teams. And I don't know. It's definitely contributed to the first round craziness. That's for sure. But yeah, like as far as this goes, I want to dive into this a little bit more. So you mentioned this a little bit. The Big Ten. The Big Ten. Again, you texted me. You were like, I don't know how good these guys are going to be. Could be good, maybe not. But you were kind of just threw out a little caution to the wind, and you were just saying maybe they're not as good as they are. And look at what happened. You got Ohio State, Purdue, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Illinois. All of these teams just underperforming. And I mean, Illinois was a shocker for me. I didn't think that they would fall flat on their face in that game, and they didn't look very good. They just didn't look like they showed up. They didn't look like they prepped for the game, or the game plan was just they didn't watch any tape, or I don't know. It just seemed weird.
To be fair, Loyola Chicago is a lot more like a 3 or 4 seed. They were like crazy underseeded. I think we talked about Ken Palm had them as the top defensive team in the country and a top 10 team. I think the net ratings that they used for this pool, like for this bracket, they have to take the top 8 teams and seed them 1 and 2. And Loyola was ranked 10th overall, but still got an 8 seed. I don't understand why they got an 8 seed. That was wild. We should have seen this coming. And I mean, we both picked them to win their first round game. So
yep,
we both liked Loyola a lot, but Illinois was playing great. But you get a like little brother in a rivalry game like Loyola Chicago against Illinois. I remember a few years ago, Kansas played Wichita State in the second round of the tournament. Kansas was the big favorite. Wichita State took it to them the same way Loyola did today to Illinois. Like when you have the little brother that has a chance in this setting to take on big brother and take it to him, they're just going to give it everything they got, and that's what happened today. It was a tough matchup for Illinois to have to face that Loyola Chicago team in the second round, and then they just didn't play well either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a few games that I was watching, especially some of those matchups. I mean, the Ohio State one was a shocker. The for me, Ohio State came into that game, and I mean, it looked like they took Oral Roberts completely for granted. They didn't even try in that first half. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just start playing here a little bit later. We'll turn it on. They never turned it on, and by the time they did in the final couple minutes, they actually started playing some defense and got a couple blocks and a couple turnovers for their defensive side of the ball to get the game closer. But it was already too late. I mean, they did not prepare for an Oral Roberts team, and you could tell they just didn't. They fell flat. There was a couple. There was another game. I can't remember which one it was. I was watching, and they were just letting the opposing team just do whatever they wanted when it came to just getting layup after layup. It might have been the Illinois Loyola Chicago. Not that again, that's Loyola Chicago is a great team, but some of these. There was one other one that really caught my attention that was just really embarrassing. It might have been. It could have been the Purdue North Texas. That was another one. Anyways, but yeah, the Big Ten overall did not show up for this tournament, and I think they were, as we're now knowing, based off of some of these results, a little bit more overrated than maybe people would have thought.
And you can add another L to that because Rutgers just lost a little bit ago to Houston, so we got the 6th Big Ten team eliminated. So 6 L's up there. I will say 3 of those teams lost in overtime. So that's a little unlucky.
Yeah.
Purdue, Ohio State, and Michigan State all lost in overtime in their first games. So a little unlucky there, but at the same time, like they were all favored to win those games. Every single one of these teams. Actually, Wisconsin was like a 1-point dog to UNC in the first round. Destroyed them, but then kind of just got beat up by Baylor today. They were never really in that game, and Baylor kind of handed it to them, even though it ended up being around a 15 point game, which was kind of where it was at the whole game. So
yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. I don't know what to make of it, but man, the Big Ten, sorry guys, you guys are getting shipped off day after day so far. We're only the first weekend in. We haven't even made it to Monday yet, and we have all these adjustments and these things going down. But Oral Roberts, this was one we were just talking about. It was kind of a crazy game because you always have those upset alerts. Every single time you get those texts or you get those little updates in your bracket challenge for ESPN where it's someone ESPN updates if you get those text messages on your phone. And like I usually in the tournament don't pay too much attention to these right away because they always do it with like 9 minutes left and the team is down by like 7 or 8, and it's like it's still a manageable game for them to come back. And that's what I thought with this one. I was still at work on Friday going through this with a coworker who was actively rooting for Ohio State. And I told him, I was like, oh, yeah, there's still 7 or 8 minutes in this game. They'll make a run here soon. A minute and 2 minutes go by. Yeah, they'll still make that run. They'll get there. Another minute goes by. Still nothing. Then you start panicking a little bit if you have this on your bracket, especially if you have them going pretty far, or if you're just an Ohio State fan. And they just never were able to get it rolling. And it was just really, really, at that point, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here on the rest of this bracket, but we're already getting these massive upsets. The fact that 2 seed ended up coming up, Oral Roberts, give them a lot of credit. They played out of their minds. And I think, other teams seeing these upsets too, getting a lot of fire, getting a lot of fuel. Like, hey, we can do this too. We see some of these upsets that, this was early on. And so, yeah, why not, right? But yeah, I was shocked at the end of the end outcome, and I was just sitting in my chair on that Friday, and I was just in disbelief that this was happening this early into the tournament.
Yeah, you can kind of tell after the game was over how unprepared Ohio State was for this game when you saw the looks on their face after they lost. They were just shell shocked in disbelief, like what just happened, which tells you they didn't take this game seriously. They're like, we're a 2, they're a 15. I think 2 seeds coming into this tournament were like 8 and 132 since they expanded the field to 100 or to 64 teams. So 8 and 132, and they blew it and they lost and they weren't prepped to play. They weren't ready to go. Took the game for granted. And now we have Oral Roberts moving on to the Sweet 16. So a lot of people love upsets in the early rounds, but then when you get to the Sweet 16, you're like, I don't really want to watch a game with Oral Roberts in it. But here we are,
Yeah.
they're going to play. People are probably going to still watch, but yeah, it's not as fun as hearing like, Ohio State or the guys that didn't make it like Duke and Kentucky this year. I feel like every year in the tournament, Duke always has the early game on Saturday in the tournament in the second round. Like they're slated for that game, and then they weren't in it this year, so they didn't have that time slot. So, Deb in the chat, Syracuse played amazing. That's a game that kills me. I think I said when the brackets first came out, I basically said on that show I was going to be taking Syracuse. Like that zone, people aren't used to facing it. They really struggle to figure it out, and by the time you do, it's too late. And all of a sudden on Wednesday, I chose San Diego State. And of course, Syracuse won that one. And then they won again today against West Virginia.
Yep.
So, and I'm also upset. So I'm in a squares pool. So a lot of people are like, squares pool for March Madness? That's weird. No, it's the greatest thing ever. If you've never done it, you got to do it. It's great. So it's basically you put in, my squares pool is $25, and it's they pick, and there's a winners column and losers column. So my winners has to end their ending number has to end in 6. So 76 or whatever. And my loser has to end in 2. And Syracuse was sitting there, I think it was 75-72. Buddy Boeheim with like a second to go or 3 seconds to go had one more free throw. He's an 88% free throw shooter. So if he makes that, it's 6-2. I'm looking great. I'm making some money. He misses it, of course. So far, but what's fun about the squares pool is it involves every game. It pays out more the later the game. In the tournament, you make more if you win, obviously, the championship game in the first round. But every single game matters to you, and you're watching at the end to see if your numbers can hit, which is kind of cool. So
yeah,
it's a fun thing. If you haven't done it, check it out. Start a squares pool with your friends. Get that going because it's a lot of fun. Disappointing the Buddy Boeheim, let me down. I had my 6-2 ready to go, and he blew it. He missed that free throw.
Yeah. I've never done a squares pool for anything but like the Super Bowl or,
Right.
some other like big football games or, stuff like that. But that sounds absolutely fantastic. I would love to get in on that next year if that ends up popping up.
Because even if your bracket sucks, you're never out of this because every game starts new and you're in it. And then when you can always, with 2 minutes to go, you can always talk yourself into how your numbers can hit. You're like, well, if they score 8 and the other team scores 5, like in the last 2 minutes, I got this.
You're
and
glued.
it could happen. So it's an interesting game and a lot of fun and pretty popular at our work. We do it through the work, and it's a lot of fun.
I'm definitely going to need to get that rolling next year. All right. Here's your Ohio team that is just coming through strong for you. So this is another one that shocked a lot of people. Ohio just coming out of nowhere, getting a big win. This was a crazy one too. You had this one. I mean, I think, right? You chose this one.
I have Ohio going to the Sweet 16. So yeah.
So this is looking absolutely great for you. Again, tell us why you liked Ohio in this one.
If you recall, I basically went to Jay Billis labeling Ohio as having the LaMelo Ball of the tournament. If you remember me talking about that, I believe his name is Preston.
Yep,
Preston, the point guard for Ohio, who in this game went for 11 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists. So really, not a ton of points, but he only shot the ball 7 times. He was 4 of 7, so nothing wrong with that. 13 rebounds for a guard, 8 assists. Like, he took it to him. It's a little ironic to talk about LaMelo Ball in right now, because I don't know if you heard today, he fractured his wrist, the actual LaMelo Ball. He's out for the rest of the season with a fractured wrist, which is unfortunate for the Hornets. But the good news is the Hornets got a stud. LaMelo Ball is going to be really good for a really long time, and they weren't going to do anything this year anyway, so he can recover. Their record will probably get worse, and they can have a better pick to help build that franchise. But that's off the topic. So I liked Ohio. I actually had the 13 and the 12 playing in the second round. So I had Ohio playing UC Santa Barbara, who lost by a point in their 5-12 matchup. So that one was a little devastating. They missed like a bunny at the end that just killed me. But no, I was excited about Ohio. And part of it was I talked about Virginia and their COVID stuff and how they were not. I just didn't know that they were going to be ready to play. And sure enough, they only put up 58 points against an Ohio team that they should have scored a lot more points against. I think they shot 35% from the field. So you're not winning a lot of games when you shoot 35%. They were 25% from 3. You're not going to win games that way. And Virginia, just like I thought, came out flat because they weren't able to practice. They were, isolated, quarantined this whole week. And sure enough, the defending national champions have gone from 3 seasons ago losing in the first round as a number 1 seed, the first ever 1 seed to lose, to winning the national championship, to last year when we didn't have the tournament, to this year losing as a 4 seed in the first round. So pretty hit and miss with Virginia. But I felt good about Ohio and was happy this one came through for me.
Yeah, Ohio, I think, that was one of the hesitations. I ended up picking Virginia because obviously, they are a team that is usually pretty competitive. They are so hit and miss in that opening round over the course of the last, couple tournaments. Obviously they won everything, but I don't know. There was something about them like getting knocked out of their they weren't exactly burning down doors necessarily before that either, and then they ended up getting hit with that conference tournament, getting knocked out. So, as far as that goes, they came into the tournament. What was it? 18-6, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah. So as far as that goes, still had some losses on the season that kind of, weren't exactly the best outcomes just to get them, going. And I didn't think they had a momentum boost here. I did think they had enough and could potentially, if they beat Ohio, make it to the next couple rounds off of the momentum from game 1. But they didn't even get that momentum in game 1. So it's crazy to see, an Ohio team just outperform a Virginia team. Maybe that was the game that I was thinking of where, just Virginia just was giving up layup after layup after, not playing the defense that they could have played. I don't know. It was just crazy. But, yeah, Ohio, another one to advance to the next round. This one was a fascinating one as well. So North Texas ended up getting a big win against Purdue. Purdue, their size, I thought they were going to be a team that can really make an impact. I mean, they looked...
We both had them going Sweet 16, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't think that they would be in this position, losing right away. North Texas, first NCAA tournament win in school history, like Mean Green. That has not been... they're not a successful school in this... Granted, making it to the tournament and having any success. They haven't. So there was just against a Purdue team that's been here, the size, the talent, what they've put together over the course of the year. Now, as far as that goes, I don't know. Purdue 18-9. They did have 9 losses on the season, so it's not like maybe we got a little, tunnel visioned in how. I mean, they were still ranked pretty high, in certain categories when it came to coming into the tournament, but. Man, the University of North Texas really came strong, and they kept hitting shot after shot. They weren't missing. down the stretch. They were just unbelievable. They ended up getting the win over Purdue. So,
yeah, I mean, to be fair, Purdue had 9 losses, but so did North Texas going into this game, and Purdue probably played a little tougher schedule.
yep. So, yeah, a 13 seed over a 4 seed. Again.
But overall, this game went to OT.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that was a 13 over a 4.
Yeah, we had two 4 seeds lose. I feel like we're delayed and we're talking over each other. So this is working great right now.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging in there, viewers. I think because it's choppy with me, like you're delayed, it seems like it stops for a second. And then I think you hear it's like no talking when I'm starting to talk after I think you're done talking. And it's going great. So no, we have 2 4 seeds that lost. We also had the 2 seed, and then we haven't talked about the 3 seed that lost in the first round in Texas. So it was a wild round 1. Absolutely. I don't think we've ever had like a 2, a 3, and 2 4s lose in the first round. Like I don't recall that many upsets. I thought this year might be the year. You kind of talked about it with like COVID, and these teams don't have like quite the experience, and I thought it was just going to be a lot more of a level playing field this year than most years when looking at all the teams. But even this surprised me. This caught me off guard. So
yeah, no, I completely agree. There's just a lot of volatility. You got Bitcoin out there, volatile. You got all these different things. Throw the March Madness bracket in there as well. Like they're all seeming to be, just unpredictable at this point, and you never know, when it's gonna just totally surprise you one way or another. So another big surprise, North Texas, Abilene Christian. This was another one over Texas that I thought was going to be completely different outcome, and ended up being a win for Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian 23-4 coming into this game, and then Texas was 19-7 coming from the Big 12. So as far as that goes, not a lot of people saw this one coming. I know you were talking pretty high on Texas, and you thought maybe they had a good chance to make it a little bit deeper. And yeah, that's not the case.
So think about this. Abilene Christian shot 29.9% from the field in this game. The team that won shot 29.7% from 3. They were 3 of 18 from 3. They were 20 of 67 from the field overall. 20 of 67. Texas shot 45% from the field and 35% from 3. The problem is Abilene Christian just absolutely outworked Texas. Abilene Christian shot the ball 67 times. Texas shot the ball 40. That's insane. More shots than the other team in a college basketball game should never happen. I don't know if it's ever happened before. And I don't know if a team's ever won a game where they didn't shoot 30% at least from the field. But here we are, Abilene Christian pulling out a 53-52 win in the ugliest game of the first round. Like, this was ugly. Texas just did not play well at all, and disappointing to watch from a Texas team that obviously won the Big 12 tournament, was coming in playing really well, thought they'd make a run, thought they'd, I think we both had them Sweet 16, but no, they laid an egg, and they basically just let Abilene Christian outwork them and out effort them, and you can't let that happen in a March Madness one and done tournament. So if these teams played 7 times, Texas would win the next 4, but they lost this game, and Abilene Christian is moving on for one more day.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think too. And part of me, you look at these upsets and you're like, oh, well, now they're going to, they ruin some big team, and then all of a sudden they're going to, lose in the next round. Well, we've actually had some of these teams be competitive in the second round too. So we'll see how this ends up panning out for them. I mean, as far as, this goes, we've already had Loyola Chicago make some. They're playing coming up here. Who do they got? They got Bama, right? if I'm not mistaken. If we're talking about
Bama, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, so they're gonna be.
Oh wait, no, they're playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, who knows? It's going to be interesting to see a lot of these that come through and end up making some runs that you wouldn't have expected. There are a couple teams I think that got knocked out in the second round, and kind of like you ruin someone's a big team's big dream of a big time program, and then you end up just dumpster fire in the next round, and just it was all kind. It feels like it is just kind of dirty, like you knock out a big name, and then all of a sudden you just get blown out in the next round. It's like, oh, see, it was maybe not meant to be. But I think this year is going to be a crazy year for these underdogs teams. I think more are going to make it past any kind of expectations that you would have normally thought in previous years.
Can we talk about this picture for a second? Like, what's happening in this picture? This dude's flexing on the Texas guy, and it looks like the Texas guy's like playing, like the ball's in bounds, and he's about to like pass the ball or something, and this dude's just flexing on him. Like, I don't know what's happening in this picture, but I like it. I like it a lot.
It's the ultimate flex. It just automatically is just, oh yeah, you can just shoot the ball. Do what you got to do. I'm just going to sit here and flex on you because we're just crushing.
I'm not going to guard you.
Syracuse. This was one that I thought was going to fall into that category of winning in the first round, potentially. Well, even though I didn't have them winning, I didn't have them winning. You had them winning, but it was one of those things where once they won, I was like, they're not going to win another game. And all of a sudden,
I didn't.
They're just on a roll. All of a sudden, they are coming in, and as you mentioned early on, Jim Boeheim, he's got them playing some basketball that aren't necessarily getting figured out by these opposing teams. Beating West Virginia earlier on today, 75-72, 11-10 on the season. Syracuse 18-9. There were some people that didn't even think Syracuse should have even gotten in to the tournament in certain camps and certain experts. They were kind of hovering on that, last four in, and they ended up getting in, which was a surprise to some. And look where they're at. They're, moving on, and they got a big win on West Virginia.
Yeah, and now they're in a region that lost the 1 seed. That's the Illinois region. We have the 4 playing in the 12 right now, and right now Oregon State as the 12 seeds up 19-13 on Oklahoma State, the 4 seed. You have Houston, who is the 2 seed that's still left, but not they like came back late to win against 10 seed Rutgers by 3 today, so they're not a juggernaut by any means. Like, Syracuse at this point can literally has a decent path to the Final Four. Like, they could absolutely, it would not surprise me at this point if they make the Final Four, which I don't want them to at all, but I could see it.
Yeah. P Nix in the chat, I hate the Syracuse zone. Yeah, that's what's frustrating other teams. I mean, they're not used to seeing it potentially, and they're coming in and they're struggling against it. You got to hit shots. You got to be able to make those buckets when you're trying to attack that zone and trying to work inside out, trying to get some open shots. And some teams are struggling to get through that. I mean, Jim Boeheim, if there's one guy that knows how to run it, it's him, and he knows how to make sure he exploits every little bit of that zone to get those wins. And that's why he's one of the best coaches in the entire country, in my opinion. He's a mastermind when it comes to that, and it's got him a lot of success over the course of his career. And I mean, look what they're doing in this round. They made it past the first and second round, and they're moving on, and they're going to have a nice little corner of the bracket to attack here. I mean, you mentioned a little bit of it as who's got the easier trip to the Final Four at this point. I mean, you're looking up at the south end. Baylor's saying thank you to a lot of teams. They're looking at some of these smaller teams and saying, hey, I appreciate the help. Thanks for getting us through. Now they're still going to have to play those teams. But, I mean, yep. Baylor's got a nice little path. Houston's got a nice little path at this point. I mean, there's some interesting teams that you wouldn't have expected that have all of a sudden the clouds have, cleared out, and they have just open lanes straight to the, Elite Eight potentially. It could be fascinating to see what this ends up looking like here in the next week.
Yeah, I don't know who I'm gonna label as a favorite in that what is that? The Midwest region, the Illinois region. I don't even know which region that is.
It's the Midwest region.
Yep. Now you have Syracuse, Loyola Chicago, maybe Oregon State or Oklahoma State. We'll see here, and then Houston. Like, I could see any of those teams taking it, and I could not at the beginning see any of those teams taking it. So that region's blown up. Obviously, the other region, that the South region with Baylor, has. I mean, both these right side of the brackets, like I talked about, have been awful for us. Baylor has a pretty clear path now. I mean, it looks like they're going to play Villanova, who's blowing out North Texas, who beat Purdue, who we just talked about. So maybe Villanova's kind of figured out after the loss of their point guard. They've kind of recovered and figured out how to play without him, and they might be dangerous. But otherwise, you have Arkansas and Oral Roberts. Like, I don't know. Baylor looks like they got a clear path, which is great for me against you, because I think only one of us had Baylor in the Final Four, and I'm pretty sure that was me.
Yeah, and I think I don't know who you had in the East. Did you have Michigan in the East, or who did you have in the East?
Oh no, I got LSU, and they're going. They are
going.
Oh,
LSU. That's right. Okay. So, well, I mean, you got to get past Michigan. Michigan, we'll see. We'll see what they can bring. But yeah, this bracket though, if you've ever watched, the Batman movies, Two-Face, where one half of his face is just, nice and clean and put together, and the other half is just torched. That's what my bracket looks like. It's from a Batman movie right now. It's just that bad. I think the only other I have one, as far as the Elite Eight goes, I have Houston in there, and I have Baylor in the South, and those are the only two that are keeping me alive. And then outside of that, I'm dead after that. So I don't really have anywhere else to go. I need the good Two-Face side of me, my bracket, to actually carry me the rest of the way through this. So we'll see. Obviously Gonzaga, I got Bama on that side. Bama's looked okay, if not, fairly good over the course of their opening rounds. So I'll take it. We'll see where they can carry me to. Another big one, CU, absolutely. So on our previous show, when we were making our picks, both of us, we were undecided on this one a little bit. We didn't know what to expect from Georgetown because they came off their tournament. And I was texting actually one of my buddies who, big CU guy, before we went on stream that this past week. And I was like, hey, what do you guys think? What do you think about Colorado? Honestly. He went to CU. What do you think about CU? He's like, man, they're good. This other, as far as the Georgetown team, they were, before that tournament, they were just a sub 500 team, not very, and then they won their tournament. So with nobody going in, I was like, yeah, you have some points there, which are some of the points of why I ended up picking CU in this one. Plus, KenPom had them so much higher in rankings above Georgetown going into the tournament. I think there was 20 plus teams in between Colorado and Georgetown, and I was just, there's too much there statistically from CU. Now, that still took me a while to get to the point where I was like, all right, I guess I'll pick CU, when really, after you watch this game, you would have thought they were a 1 or 2 seed. Just absolutely incredible in this game, coming out strong. They played a complete game from start to finish. They didn't let up on Georgetown. They didn't really, give them. I mean, Patrick Ewing's team did not have an answer for anything that CU threw at them. And, you have some studs on Colorado that were just unbelievable. Man, what a win by Colorado. This was one of the more impressive wins in the first round, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was the only 5-12 game I got right. And I was teetering on this one. I was like, I don't know. Listen, Colorado played great. You're right. I'm just wondering how much repeatable this is. Like, I don't They made 11 threes in the first half, which matches their best game all season total for the game. They had made their best game all season. They made 11 threes in. They made 11 threes in the first half of this game. So how repeatable is this performance for CU? I don't know. I mean, they shot almost 61% from the field, and they shot 64% from three in this game. I don't think those numbers, you can replicate those. If they were unguarded from 3-point range their next game, they literally were just wide open every attempt. They're not going to hit 64% of them. Like, they're just not that kind of shooting team. They played phenomenal. I'm super happy that CU won this game. We'll see what happens. You know, obviously they're playing a Florida State team that's pretty good. That'll be a fun matchup tomorrow to watch. And maybe they can keep it going. I mean, the Pac-12's on fire right now, so maybe they're better than we all thought. I mean, Oregon State's now kind of taking it to Oklahoma State. They're going to keep that undefeated streak potentially going, where the Pac-12 is going to have all these teams moving on and moving forward. So CU's a part of that. I hope it ends tomorrow, because my boys, Kansas, play a Pac-12 team tomorrow night. So hopefully the Pac-12 is not that good, but actually KU's we'll get into that, but they're a 1-point underdog against USC right now as the 3 versus the 6. So the good news is there was another team like that today. Arkansas was an underdog against Texas Tech in a 3-6 game, and Arkansas pulled it out. So I'm not going to give up on my Jayhawks just yet. We'll get into that game later, but no, great game by CU. They've never made it, I believe, since the field expanded to 64 past the second round. So tomorrow's a big day for them. If they can make the Sweet 16, I cheer for them. I want a Colorado team to do well. Their coach, Tad Boyle, played at Kansas, so I'm a Tad Boyle fan. Hope he does well. So we'll see. I don't think they're going to be able to rely on shooting the ball as well as they did against Georgetown. Like, now they won by 23, so they don't have to shoot that well. But at the same time, that's going to be hard to replicate.
I think this is a little, yeah, I agree. There's some aspect of being an outlier. They did score more points than they've scored all season long. And Georgetown, again, is a team that isn't exactly, I mean, if they wouldn't have won their conference tournament, and if they didn't have other teams in their conference tournament get knocked out for various reasons, whether that was COVID or other related, type things like that, I don't think Georgetown even wins, and I don't know if they necessarily get that bid either. So there's
Georgetown's 13-13. They weren't getting in.
Yeah, and so
without winning that conference tournament,
that was going to be, that's kind of what a little bit pushed me over the edge. Just momentum. You get hot at the right time. You don't know those types of teams, how they're going to carry that over into the tournament. So that was the biggest thing for me. But on the flip side of this, what you mentioned, the Pac-12, I retroactively, in retrospect, thought back to that Oregon State game about how close that game was, and Colorado came up just a little short. And it was like, was Oregon State that good? And then was Colorado that good, to the point where it's like, okay, maybe these two teams coming out of Pac-12 going to their, playing in the championship of the Pac-12. Pac-12. Is Oregon State and Colorado really up there based off of the fact that what they're doing in the tournament so far? Oregon State's looking solid, and Colorado was one of the more impressive teams on the opening slate. So interesting to think back on that game and okay, these two teams could be players, and Oregon State's not as bad as I thought they would, and CU's not as bad as I thought they would be. So we'll see.
If CU can get Jabari Walker, a guy off their bench who averaged 7 points, to score 24 like he did in the last game, shooting 9 of 10 from the field, 5 of 5 from 3, a guy who averages 7 points a game, they're going to be just fine in the next round. I just think everything fell into place for CU. Listen, I'm happy for them. Happy they won. I really am. Hope they win tomorrow. I can't rely on a guy who averages 7 points a game to put up 9 of 10 and 5 of 5 from 3.
Another thing too, Florida State, the surprise of what CU could bring, like that element of surprise, is gone. Florida State's going to look
Yeah.
at this team as a dangerous team, and they're going to come to play. It's not like Ohio State came in, and just was like, yeah, we'll just coast a little bit. We'll turn it on when we need to. I think Florida State is going to come in, and they're going to be ready for a team that can put up points and can be like the element of surprise is gone for CU. They're on the radar at this point. So another impressive win. So, we've talked a lot about the upsets, but got to talk about the Zags a little bit. I actually had just a side parlay going, and I was crushed by the Zags because I had 39.5 points. I was getting 39.5 points for Norfolk State. I was like, the Zags, I don't think that they're going to be able to, even with these bad teams, they're still a team that made it in. Norfolk State, still, I think can be competitive enough to keep it within 35 points. I think the line on this was like 34 or something along those lines in Vegas. And I lost that bet because the Zags almost won this game by at one point I thought it was gonna be 50 points. They were just absolutely dominating left and right. And this team, they had even their backups were in the game late in this game, and still the depth of their bench. Not that they're gonna ever play again. I don't think they're not gonna have that kind of a cushion moving forward as they get into these better teams. But man. It's hard to say that number one seed had an as impressive win, but this was pretty impressive given the fact that they're the number one overall seed. They just you're supposed to put away the teams you're supposed to put away, right? The number one seeds, you got Baylor, you got Michigan, you got Gonzaga, and you got Illinois. Those teams should be putting their games away because they're number one seeds. They've earned those, and this was the most dominating, opening round. They showed why. I know it's against a bad team, but they showed why they are the overall number one seed. I didn't think. Again, it's the opening round. I get it, but I thought, in my opinion, this was impactful. The way they just crushed this team. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't watch this game because, I had better things to do with my time than watch a 30. I think it was. I saw it at 33-point favorite.
I
teased
first
it.
Of
all, I can't believe. I still can't believe you bet against your own team. Like, what fun is that in a tournament? Like, oh, I want you guys to win, but don't win by too much. Like, let's settle down here. Like, don't do that.
But
don't do that.
At the same time, Gonzaga, I feel like in early rounds of the tournament have had some of those, closer games at half. Maybe they're up by 5 or 6 or, even to really, really poor teams. So, when you see this 33, I teased it up to 39.5. And still wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. It was just shocking to me that they were that. That's a lot.
Yeah. This game's pretty much meaningless to me.
Sure.
It's nice they blew them out. They should have blown them out. KenPom has Norfolk State as the 207th best team in the country. Worse than San Diego, who's 203rd, who I think had a 3-11 record overall and was in the West Coast Conference, which isn't exactly a juggernaut of conference, obviously. So, this was a team that was worse than every other team in the West Coast Conference playing Gonzaga in the first round. So, yeah, they won by a bunch. Neat, cool. They're still the favorites. Great. They did what they were supposed to do. Do I care about this game moving forward? Does it mean anything to me? No. Illinois won by 30 in their first round game and lost today. So no, them winning by 45 or whatever they won by, I think it was 44, 43 maybe, whatever it was, doesn't really mean anything moving forward.
Yeah.
They're really good though. They're
No,
of
yeah.
course really good. They're gonna be very difficult to beat. But we knew that before this game. This game was a waste of time. Is what this game was.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that other game get canceled with the Oregon VCU game. This game probably should have been that same kind of outcome. Let's just move this team on to the next round, not even have the game. But I don't know. It was just, for me, the eyeball test. You still got better teams coming up here. I think they're going to still have some decent challenges as they get closer to, maybe the Iowa matchup potentially, if Iowa gets past your Jayhawks, which, at this point we were talking about your Jayhawks kind of struggling in that first game, but then ended up righting the ship and then ended up coming back in and getting that solid win. So we'll see who ends up coming out of the bottom half. I still think Iowa's probably one of the better teams coming out of the bottom, but you never know.
Do you? Because what conference is Iowa in?
They're in the SEC. No, I'm just kidding.
I was worried for a second. No, they're in the Big Ten, who right now has 6 teams out, 0 teams in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
I actually think if KU gets by USC, well, I actually picked Iowa to lose to Oregon, so I got Oregon in that game. Feel good about that. Oregon played phenomenal in their first game defensively. Mm-hmm. They played real well against VCU. I don't think VCU scored, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they didn't.
If I remember correctly, VCU did not score against Oregon. So
best defense
Oregon's
out there.
Hot right now. Big Oregon.
Oregon's got the best defense.
If you don't give up any points in the game. Yeah, we haven't really touched on this. Obviously, the Oregon VCU game. VCU, first victim of COVID of this March Madness, had a couple positive tests, had to forfeit the game. So Oregon moved on automatically. I have a really good buddy who's an Oregon alum, huge Oregon fan. I basically texted him like, "Congrats on the win?" ? And he was like, "Dude, that sucks." And I'm like, "Yeah." Because one, you want to watch your team play. You get excited to watch your team. You're ready to watch your team. You don't want your team to get like a bye. I don't know. That's not fun in the tournament. So you never want to see something like that. Super unfortunate for VCU that hit them at the wrong time. A lot of teams have obviously had COVID issues this year. It hit VCU at the wrong time. And so far, that's the only team that's had to, forfeit a game in the tournament. Let's hope that's the last. Let's hope we're not going to have any more of those. Can you imagine like a Final Four game that we don't get to watch because one of the teams gets COVID? Like that would be awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
And
but I also feel bad. I feel bad for what happens to brackets that pick VCU. Like I feel bad for them. Like they didn't even have a shot. No chance. We both picked Oregon. We're good with that.
Yeah.
But the brackets that pick VCU, I feel bad for those too.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Like if we get into some of these other later games and you get like an Alabama that gets bumped, or even like Iowa or Gonzaga, but Baylor has an issue. They've had issues early on in the season with some COVID stuff too. Like any of these top teams, obviously the smaller teams too, but the top teams, the teams that people are excited about seeing go far in this tournament, those are going to be the ones that I'm going to be more concerned about, obviously. But I think, regardless of what happens, you don't want to see it. You want to make sure all your boys, like that's the whole reason why they have it all in one location, trying to keep things under control as opposed to having all these traveling teams all over the country. And, the fact that they can hopefully try to create this, in a sense, bubble. I know they're playing in multiple facilities, but I just want, I hope these coaches can keep their teams. I think that was a wake-up call for a lot of teams. Coaches are going to look at that and use that as like a example. Hey, we don't want to end up like VCU and end up getting knocked out of this tournament because of something stupid that you guys may, our coaching staff, anybody on our team, our players, don't do anything that's going to mess up your chances to move on without playing a game, because that would be the absolute worst case scenario for any team from this point forward. Yeah, no one wants to see that. Update on the couple games going on right now.
we haven't touched on them too much. Villanova, we talked about, is up 18. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, 18 with 4 minutes to go against North Texas. And right now, Oregon State is absolutely destroying Oklahoma State in the first half, up 38-22.
You know, bringing up Oklahoma State, you know, they have, Cade Cunningham for them. Like, he's a stud. When I watched them in the opening round, I wasn't exactly super impressed with their win. I thought they were okay. They didn't really strike me as a team, you know.
I don't know. Liberty's pretty good. Liberty's pretty good.
Liberty, yeah, and I'm not taking Liberty was one of the teams that we were both discussing could be upset alert. We didn't pick them, obviously, but we thought that would be a team that could be in that kind of. They have a sneaky team to make an upset there. I don't know. I guess I thought Oklahoma State, having the best players in the country, was gonna show out a little bit better against a Liberty team. But again, maybe Liberty was just that much better. I mean, Liberty limited to Oklahoma State to, you know, a little bit of a tougher offensive, some frustrations from the defensive side for Liberty. So I felt that, I just wasn't as impressed as I thought I would be. I was really excited to see Oklahoma State just really come in and just dominate a game. And I don't know. I think, you know, they were one of those teams that I just wasn't as impressed with. And you're seeing a little bit of that. And I don't know if it's Oregon State being that good and just being on a roll, or if it's, you know, a combination of Oklahoma State maybe just not having as many weapons as they would need to go around Cunningham in this tournament. Maybe he needs some more help, and he's just not necessarily getting a lot of it from anyone else. I think Oklahoma State right now, their leading scorer, well, they have Avery Anderson the third, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He's their top performer at this point, from what I'm seeing on ESPN.
I've seen Oregon State is just dumping it into the post and has this guy that looks like he's 100 pounds heavier than anyone else on Oklahoma State's team, and it's working out real well for him.
Yeah,
he's either scoring or kicking out to shooters and kind of dominating right now. He's at the line right now. They're about to make it 40-22. Like, this is wild. Especially, I think Oklahoma State was up early by like 7, so they've shut them down. Oregon State is on some kind of run these days. Easily winning their first round game in a 12-5 upset against Tennessee. Blew up Tennessee, your SEC boys, by 14 in a game that was never close. And now they're blowing out Oklahoma State right now.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see if Oklahoma State can make a run, but they're down 18.
Another team
is really upsetting to me because I have Oklahoma State in the Sweet 16 and you don't.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. This whole the left side of the bracket is going to be crazy, but the Oklahoma State, I had Tennessee beating them. I thought Tennessee was going to be a lot stronger, and Oregon State, Pac-12. I mean, big ups to the Pac-12. They are representing right now. You have Oregon, USC, CU. I mean, all these teams, they're playing well. They're doing some big things. Crazy.
Yeah, this will move. I think they were 5-0 in the first round. Granted, Oregon got a free pass, but UCLA is obviously, we actually won 2 games now. So maybe they're 6-0 actually, with UCLA's 2 wins after winning against Michigan State in overtime and then taking down BYU in their first round game. So there's been 0 losses by Pac-12 teams so far, which is super impressive.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. They're definitely showing out by far. Definitely better than the Big Ten, that's for sure. Yeah, and then tomorrow, just kind of going into some of these other games. The Kansas USC, I think, is going to be a fun one. Your boys, the Jayhawks, got that big win, after being down most of the game, ended up coming back and righting the ship there. And now they have a nice matchup against USC. USC, hopefully you can start derailing the Pac-12 train with that game. That's going to be actually a later game in the day, 7:40 start from at least Mountain Time. So you're going to actually see a lot of the other teams in the. You got Oregon playing first thing at 10. You have let's see, I believe the Colorado game's at 5:45. But then I think you also have UCLA playing. Let's see, 3:15 in the afternoon. So yeah. So you'll get a good idea of.
The games are all across the board tomorrow.
So if let's say the Pac-12 wins all those games, suddenly you're coming in and USC is the last one of those Pac-12s to play on the slate, and you see all these other teams just crushing, you might be a little worried. You don't know.
I'd be very worried at that point. Very worried.
Other big ones in action tomorrow: Alabama, Michigan, couple top seeds there. Creighton against Ohio, that'll be an interesting one. I mean, it's not going to be a super sexy matchup. Like, no one really had that matchup going into their second round. I mean, you did. Did you have Creighton though?
I did not have Creighton. UC Santa Barbara, who I talked about earlier, lost by a point against Creighton.
Yeah. So that's a weird one. First thing tomorrow, though. I'm really going to have fun watching that one on the side. So, and I don't have to wait too long to watch my Zags play Oklahoma. They're going to be kicking off at 12:40 p.m. In the afternoon.
Outside of the Gonzaga game, I think all the other games tomorrow have a spread of 5.5 or less.
Yeah, a lot of
Gonzaga's 14.5, so that tells you how good Gonzaga is. Every other game's 5.5. Gonzaga's a 14.5 point favorite, so they're pretty good. But no other game tomorrow is more than a 5.5 spread. 8 games tomorrow, except
Oklahoma.
Should be fun
and tease it up to like 25. Just tease it all the way up.
What are you getting payout at 25?
I mean,
if you can get 25, I don't think Gonzaga's beating Oklahoma by 25. So yeah, I do that.
I also didn't think there were.
I would think money's just pouring in on Gonzaga right now. So if I were a betting man, which I am, but I'm not going to bet on that game, I would take Oklahoma plus 14.5. 14.5 is a lot of points, and I feel like Gonzaga has become a really public bet team with how good they've been playing. So everyone and their mother is betting on Gonzaga at this point.
Yeah.
But my favorite bet of tomorrow is, of course, my LSU Tigers that I actually got at 5.5 plus 5.5 against Michigan. Love that game. If there's one game to bet tomorrow, put your money on the LSU Tigers, and you can thank me on Wednesday in the chat.
Steph, you're not gonna like that in the chat. She's saying died.
Yep.
Sorry, Steph. I know you're going Michigan.
It's nothing about Michigan.
It's not about Michigan. It's about LSU. That's the the give and take. You don't have. I mean, obviously we have all of our family who we've mentioned on previous streams that are all rooting for Michigan. So there's going to be a lot of people getting that win over LSU that want that win over LSU. But I'm not going to lie. Even if, I don't know. I think I'm with you on betting LSU. LSU getting 5.5 is that's a really good bet there. I would always take that 5.5 it's probably even gonna it might drop a little bit more before tomorrow starts. I wouldn't be surprised.
I would think so. I would think so.
Let's see, that's
my favorite bet tomorrow. Looking over the other lines, there's a couple other I'd bet too, but
yeah. And then that Colorado game against Florida State. Florida State's a 1.5 point favorite at this point, which that's going to be an interesting one. I mean, obviously we both have Florida State beating Colorado, so the fact that that's practically just down to a pick 'em almost with just a 1.5 point spread. maybe just a little bit to get you over the edge there. Maybe that Florida State is another bet that you can target to beat Colorado, coming off a game that Colorado just statistically across the board. We were mentioning earlier, Scott, you were rattling off a bunch of those outlying numbers of hitting all those shots, and obviously they scored more points than they have all season long. It's kind of seems like an outlier game, and they're going to come back down to earth. You always revert back to the average, the mean, and I think Florida State isn't going to be surprised by them. So I think taking the 1.5 with Florida State, I hope I'm wrong. Because I would love to see Colorado make a run, but I think Florida State's the bet.
My only hindrance there, and we've talked about it, is I'm afraid to bet against the Pac-12 right now. Pac-12 does not lose right now. So you're going to have a UCLA team that was in a playing game that has to beat Abilene Christian tomorrow to make the Sweet 16. I think they do it. They're only a 4.5-point favorite. I actually like UCLA in that game a lot. Abilene Christian did not actually play well against Texas. They just Ohio Creighton. Creighton's a 5.5. I obviously like Ohio a lot in that game. I picked Ohio to go to the Sweet 16. I think Ohio will beat Creighton tomorrow, straight up. So I like that one. Also will beat Michigan. I like a lot of dogs tomorrow. This we talked about as a 1-point underdog against USC, even though they're the 3 versus the 6. I don't ever bet my team, so I'm going to just not touch that one and just hope everything goes the way I hope it does tomorrow night. I don't care if they win by 1 or 100. I just want Kansas to win.
Yeah. No, I think they have a decent shot. Hey, it's going to be fun. Can't wait to see all the matchups the rest of the day today. So obviously, we still have a couple that are going at the moment. I believe if I'm checking back on these scores, we are looking at, I think North Texas was still getting blown out here. But
yeah, I think that one's over. Nova won 84-61 against North Texas. 2 seconds until halftime in Oklahoma State. Oregon State's up 44-30.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll keep you posted as we're going into the latter end of the show on what ends up happening in these couple games. Because, again, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, still a whole nother half to play. A lot can happen in March Madness. So we'll keep you posted there. But we do want to shift over. It is Sunday, so we always like to get a little bit of a perspective from our local teams, what happened over the course of the week, what we're trying to round up when it comes to how the Nuggets, the Avalanche, Rockies, Broncos, any kind of news going on with any of those teams. So we're going to shift over to that here. Keep all of your questions. And actually, I still, I know there's a bunch of people watching on Twitch. As far as if you're here, make sure you're letting us know, how your brackets are doing. Obviously, what's one of the bigger upset picks that you had on your bracket that you're just wanting to just show off in the chat right now? I'm curious to see what the biggest upset you have, or how your bracket's doing. If you're crushing your bracket, let us know. Who do you like in the next round of the games? Just throw it in there. There's a lot of people, I think, watching on all of our platforms, whether you're Facebook, your YouTube, your Twitch, watching, just chilling on the side. Hit that follow button. It means a lot to us. It doesn't cost you anything. It just, it's free for you guys, and it means a lot to us that you guys are a part of our, Action Lab community. All of our lab rats. We love all of you from top to bottom. So hit that follow button. I want to see your name pop up on the screen here, and we want to give you some recognition. Thank you, Rose, for the follow, and thank you to some of our other folks that followed on Facebook last week. We had Lisa, Sheridan, R.S. Parker, Pork Chop, big shout out there. Mayday, I don't know if Mayday's in here. We haven't really covered a lot of those Philly teams quite yet for Mayday, but we talk all sports.
He's probably watching Villanova tonight.
Yeah, we're Mayday. If you end up popping in, we want to see your commentary on what's going on with Nova. I bet you're pretty excited right now. So, yeah, love to see all you guys chatting. So keep them rolling in. So far, Deb, Belly, Phoenix, Steph, all you guys. Thanks for participating and being a part of this. We love it. All right, let's dive in though. We have our Mile High Spotlight popping up. We have a lot to cover here. There was a lot going on this past week, and I didn't even update this Nugget score. Unfortunately, it's not a good one.
Don't do it.
I'm not going to. We're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it. We're not gonna talk about it. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about the Nuggets because they had a good week up until this point.
I was so excited to talk about a perfect.
Yeah, and we've been talking about perfect weeks for a while, trying to say, all right, this is the week. Avalanche, this is when they're going to get their perfect week. The Nuggets are going to get their perfect week, and we're going to just rattle them off one by one, and, we're going to have something to celebrate. Nuggets had to give a stinker in there today, unfortunately. So the Denver Nuggets end up dropping one to the Pels, 113-108. Jokic, another triple-double. He has been absolutely just crushing triple-doubles. Like, it's not even a challenge for him anymore. 29 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists for today. And then the one, we'll go into some of the stats here on these other games here, but came up one, I think, rebound short or one assist short, one of the two, on another game earlier on in the week. Brandon Ingram in the Pelicans game, he's been playing absolutely out of his mind over the course of the year. He's just been fantastic for the Pels. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists for them in this game. But let's go back into some of the previous games, kind of go through how these kind of unfolded. We'll touch on each of these real quick for the Nuggets, go into some Avalanche, and then we have some Broncos news we wanted to cover. There's some movement when it comes to free agency and signings and different things going on with the Broncos. Obviously, you see the CU Buffs. Rockies are still going through their spring training, so they're still just cruising along like anything else. But we're going to be touching on some of those other teams here shortly. But Nuggets started out the week, Scotty, with a big win against Indiana, 121-106. Jokic notches 35th double-double with 32 points, 14 rebounds in that one. Michael Porter and Will Barton both scored 20 points for the Nuggets. Big fourth quarter to get the win. On the other side, Domantas Sabonis finished rebound shy of a triple-double. Obviously, he's been having an all-star year. Indiana rallied 20 down in the first half to take a 79-74 lead midway through the third quarter in this one. But the Nuggets opening up the fourth with 14 straight points to take a 101-91 lead. Monte Morris was out of the lineup in this one. Gary Harris missed his 12th game with a left abductor ab strain. And RJ Hampton, who's our young guy who doesn't really get a lot of time anyway, was out for safety protocols. But big win for them to get against Indiana.
Yeah. For whatever reason, it seems like there's always a quarter with the Nuggets where they just fall asleep. And that happened, I believe, in the third quarter against Indiana. You talked about it. Can't let that happen when you make the postseason. But they took care of business in the fourth. I think they outscored them. Now I got to look. They had absolutely destroyed Indiana in the fourth quarter, as they should have. I think, the fourth quarter was 34-15. Killed them. They were down going to the fourth and absolutely destroyed them, as they should. Like, took care of business against an Indiana team that's 17-21. Not that great of a team in the East. Malcolm Brogdon played pretty well for them. That would be a piece. Is there any way we can trade for Malcolm Brogdon this week? I'd be a big fan of that.
Brogdon is, and by the way, you're alluding to it. There's we're getting closer to this trade deadline. We're getting closer to some of these moves, which I think is going to be absolutely fireworks. I think there's going to be there's some underlying like rumors going on, between certain teams, trying to kind of jockey for position when it comes to gearing up for the second latter part of the season. And I think the Nuggets are going to be one of those teams buying. And there's a couple players that are on the radar. There's been, I've heard a couple people who have been saying like Houston is kind of they're selling. There's a lot of Houston talks.
I've
And
talked about Oladipo
yep,
a lot. I don't
yep.
know if he's on the market, but
I think anyone is for
I don't
Houston.
know. I think we just need a long, athletic, defensive 3-point shooting wing.
Yep.
Really, really badly.
Yeah. No, and we have, I think, we're gonna try. We've been very active. It sounds like from, just trying to work around and behind the scenes. There's been a lot of calls, and from sources here locally, there's been a lot of talks around various players. So we'll see what this ends up happening close to this trade deadline. We might have a lot to talk about on our Wednesday show coming up with some of those rumors and some of the things that might be popping off. But we've already seen some trades pop through the NBA, and there's not going to be a shortage of them coming closer to this trade deadline. So we are going to be your one-stop shop to talk about all those items of information on Wednesday, and we'll be talking more obviously college hoops, because that's a big time of the year for everybody at the moment. But let's go on to the second game of the week. Charlotte, big win there as well. So the Nuggets are kind of catching their stride at this point in the week. They got a 129-104 win against Charlotte. Nikola Jokic, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists for another triple-double. Michael Porter, 28 points. Big game for Michael Porter. I'm loving the time that he's getting, and I'm loving the time that he's getting. You mentioned it early in the season, or actually about a month ago, where, trying to get him more time with some of the starters, and I think that's panning out for him. He's playing a lot better. I feel he has more confidence now, too. The Nuggets pulled away in the second half to beat the Charlotte Hornets. Jokic has 10 triple-doubles this season. So far, and 51 overall at this point in the season when they beat Charlotte. So he also had his 228th double-double to move past Dikembe Mutombo for the franchise record. So Dikembe, big up. Sorry for your Georgetown boys there. Jokic leads the NBA in double-doubles this season with 36 out of 40 games. So there's only been 4 games where he hasn't recorded a double-double, at least. Will Barton in this one scored 23 points to help the Nuggets win for the 7th time in 8 games. Snapped Charlotte's 4-game winning streak. As far as that goes, it was a great win for the Nuggets. Gary Harris remains sidelined still at this point in the week with that strain, and there's still no timetable for his return. Gary Harris is, man, it's frustrating when you have a guy that's like, he's not exactly one of the better players on your team at the moment. And then it's like, you wish you would have potentially made a move for him before, when he had value, a higher value. And now it's just, man, can you imagine having him on the just performing at a high level on the trading block coming down the stretch here to this trade deadline? Man, lot of value there.
Yeah, he's kind of screwed the Nuggets. He basically played pretty well and then got paid, and has kind of been injured, and even when he's healthy, just for whatever reason, a way worse player than he was before. Shooting the ball, they say he's really good defensively. I even question that, because he's not big enough. He's not a big enough guy. Like, he's a good defender, but he's too small. He can't guard athletic wings that are tall. Like, who are the Nuggets going to match up with LeBron? Obviously, it was Jeremy Grant last year in the playoffs. Maybe after that it was Torrey Craig. We don't have either of those players now. So who covers LeBron in the playoffs if the Nuggets play him? I'm worried about that. This game was easy. My favorite part of this was, Jokic had a triple double in 29 minutes. He was plus 27 in plus minus. He only took 7 shots in this game. Have you ever heard of a leading MVP candidate only taking 7 shots in a game? He was 6 of 7. Got his 12 points, 10 boards, 10 assists in 29 minutes, and then just took a breather the rest of the game. So this one, they did what they needed to do. They took control they were up, I believe, 12 at half, and then outscored them by 16 in the third, and it was over from there. And I don't know if any meaningful guys, played in the fourth quarter. So did what they needed to do here, beat a Charlotte team at home that they need to beat. I don't need to say much more than that. They took care of business.
Speaking of MVP candidate, so you have Joel Embiid, who's out for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
Trying to get him right.
Yep.
You have LeBron. He is out for the foreseeable future. No timetable for his return. So when you're talking about MVP, obviously Jokic launches to the top of that, especially given the fact that the Nuggets have won a bunch of games. Like that's been, I think, one of the things that's kind of been, thrown against Joker in this stretch is the fact that, oh yeah, he's getting triple doubles, but his team isn't winning, and they're not getting they're not first place in the West, or they're not top 3 or whatever. Now that those top 2 candidates are out, and you have the Nuggets starting to turn things around a little bit. Again, 3 out of the last 4. I think, what did I say, 6 of 7 or 7 of 8 of the last 8 or something along those lines that they've been winning. I had it. I said it earlier. I can't remember what I said.
If they would have, they lost today. They're 8 of 10. They would have been 9 of 10 with a win today. So they're 8 of 10.
So look out. I mean, you can't start, like, if you don't have, and I saw this trending on Twitter a little bit when it came to who's your MVP candidate with those 2 guys out, and there was some, people throwing out some James Harden, people like leapfrogging players over Jokic on some of these, trying to, like, and I'm just like, no. Jokic arguably is an MVP candidate over those other 2 guys that are out already. So don't start leapfrogging some other guys over Jokic at this point, especially now, and try to put them in a place where they think they're going to be a better option for MVP than Nikola Jokic.
So Joker right now, all of a sudden, because of these injuries on FanDuel, as we speak, the favorite to win the regular season MVP, plus 110. Second is Embiid and LeBron are both plus 550. That's how far back they are of Joker right now. And then you got Giannis plus 750, Damian Lillard 11-1, and Harden 11-1. So Joker's the odds-on heavy favorite at this point to win MVP. I think he deserves it. And people are gonna go nuts because MVP, he's not the sexy pick. Like, no one looks at Joker and is like, oh, I get really excited about his. No one's looking at his Top Shot highlights and being like, oh, that dunk he just had was really sweet. No, and he fully admits it. I like that about him. He's super sarcastic and super dry. He's like, he just makes fun of his same athleticism as LeBron, or a lot of like in that, which couldn't be further from the truth. So he makes fun of himself, but man, he's so skilled with the ball in his hands, and he obviously played amazing at the beginning of the season when they weren't winning. He was basically keeping the Nuggets afloat when other guys weren't playing well. Other guys are starting to, and his stats might be regressing a little because of that. But at the same time, he's been amazing this year. If you just look at numbers straight across the board, there's no doubt that he should win MVP. If he doesn't win MVP, especially with these guys missing at least several weeks that they're gonna miss, something has to go wrong. So it's crazy. I never thought going into the season. I told you, I'm like, I like him a lot, but people won't vote for him because he's not sexy. But now, here we are. He's the favorite to win the MVP,
which I love.
We have the best player in the league on our team.
Yeah, and
let's go.
Honestly, looking at the teams ahead of the Nuggets here, well, actually, let's wait on that. Let's touch on that here in a minute. I want to look at the standings and kind of go into that a little bit, given the fact that the Lakers are like just. They don't even have their top 2 guys for the foreseeable future, and there's some other teams ahead of the Nuggets that are kind of fading pretty fast. So I want to touch on the standings here in a little bit, but let's go into this last game before the Friday matchup with Chicago. Kind of touch on that. So there's some good highlights from this one as well. Now this one, Chicago game. Jamal Murray was the big boy in this one. 34 points. Your boy. Including that tying 3-pointer in the final second of regulation, which was spectacular, lifting the Nuggets past the Chicago Bulls. Nikola had 34 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists. So this was the one I was telling you was one short of that triple-double, just barely. But still, he had 34 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists. That's a hell of a game, outshined by Murray just based off of the heroics that he threw in there to win this game. Michael Porter Jr. added 19 points, extended the home winning streak against the Bulls to 13. So the Bulls haven't had a lot of success here when it comes to those games. So keep that in mind for all you viewers betting on the Nuggets anytime the Bulls come to town. Hey, that's a big stat right there. Zach LaVine, on the other hand, 32 points, led the Bulls. Otto Porter Jr. had 22. Bulls still kind of, the younger team trying to find their way. I think they'll get there. I think they're one of the nice, promising young teams growing, in the league right now, along with the Knicks, some of these other teams. But as far as this, trailing by 8 going to the fourth quarter, Nuggets fell behind 103-89. Kobe White hit a three-pointer with 8:05 remaining, but Denver kind of strung together an 8-0 run to kind of narrow the deficit. As far as the down the stretch, Nuggets clinging to a 2-point lead. Murray connected on the jumper with 10.3 seconds left, and just secured the win there. So that was absolutely clutch, and you want that from your best team, your best players, right? We've talked about Joker being a really, really clutch player, getting that last shot. You want the ball in his hands, but he's fully capable of making those shots as well. So the fact that he hit that one, that's a big confidence booster for Jamal Murray, who has had some up and down stretches in the season. I think he's had some areas where he's been a little bit subpar when he should be more aggressive. He should be taking more shots, or maybe the shots aren't falling for him. And this was, I think, a big confidence booster for him to get off that stretch of maybe up and down games. Now, just real quick, rookie R.J. Hampton still out. Gary Harris remains sidelined at this point. Monte Morris missed for a quad injury. But, so Mayday, back in the chat. Welcome back, my friend. We were actually talking about you earlier, wondering how you're feeling about the Villanova, and what you're feeling with your bracket. Let us know.
He said they'd make it to the Sweet 16 and then maybe bow out after that. So he had that peg. Talking about the Nugs right here in this one. Yeah, you talked about it, Murray, who you love to hate. I'm gonna just let that out there. 6 of 7 from 3 in this game. 12 of 20 from the field. Hit that clutch 3 at the end of regulation. Scored another 7 or 15 points in overtime, including the clutch shots at the end to keep the distance in a game we obviously didn't play great in. There's no reason at home to go to overtime against the Chicago team that we should have overmatched. But we just didn't play. We played really well offensively. Didn't really play on the defensive end of this game. Gave up a lot to LaVine. Put up 32 on 10 of 20. But Murray, Joker, Porter Jr. all played really well in this game on offense. Got the W. That's what matters. I know you love to hate Murray. Pretty.
You're throwing it out.
I mean, at this point, it's I'm not even. It's known. You have to know you love to hate Murray. You're like the moment he has a bad game, you're like, see, he's inconsistent. He's just not. Not consistent. I
just want him to be the player I think he can be. That's all I want. It's just one of those things. I just get there. You're almost there. Just keep doing it. I know you could do it. And then, maybe he has a game where he just doesn't shoot very well, and it's just like, oh man, why? Just where's the Bubble Murray? That Bubble Murray was, yeah. I love Murray. I love
Bubble Murray. He's not. It's not sustainable for a whole season. Bubble Murray. Just worry about that Bubble Murray being back for the playoffs.
I love you, Jamal. I love you. Don't let Scott
in the chat. Sorry, North. No, you hate him. You hate him. You hate Jamal Murray. He might be your least favorite player in the NBA.
Yeah, get out of here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Mayday.
Mayday in the chat. Yep.
Go for it.
Yeah, he's talking. Sorry, North Texas. Not so sorry, Knicks. Yeah, I didn't see the end of that Philadelphia New York game, but 101 to 100 at New York. Philly without Joel Embiid, of course, pulls it out in a tight game. So they're hanging in there. I mean, without Joel Embiid, they lost that one against Milwaukee, but otherwise, they've won every game. So Philly's rolling. Nova rolled for you. Been a good weekend for you, Mayday. So I'm happy for you. I don't know how the Flyers.
The
I don't know how the
Flyers.
Flyers did.
Maybe
I need my Flyers to get back in it. So they're not the Avs. The Avs just absolutely destroyed teams this week. So
yeah, Avs just. I mean, it was baseball scores for the Avs. Speaking of, by the way, real quick, I wanted to touch on before we shift to hockey. I want to just go into this and just look at some of the standings for the NBA before we shift. Now, there are some teams that are kind of ahead of the Nuggets. So Philadelphia, your boys, Mayday, still holding that top spot in the East, 30-13, 8-2 in their last 10 with that 2-game winning streak. So your boys are looking great, Mayday. As far as the Western Conference goes, our Nuggets. 8-2. They're the hottest team in the last 10 games over that stretch in the Western Conference. The Suns are 7-3, and the Blazers are 7-3. But look out! I'm telling you, the fool's gold is catching up with Utah. 5-5 in their last 10, and dropped to 30-11. Still at the top though. Still up there, but. There are some games that they're dropping. I think they're starting to come back down to earth. Still my fool's gold. Still a team that I'm not completely sold on. I think they're going to start, the Nuggets are coming up. Portland's coming up. I didn't think Portland was going to be at this point. Lakers and Clippers, the Clippers 4-6 in the last 10. They're 27-16. So as far as they go, they're not exactly having a good stretch. This is where you're starting to see some of these teams separate a little bit, and I'm excited to see where this ends up transitioning, especially as we get past this trade deadline and see where some of these players end up panning out and moving to. So going to be fascinating, but Nuggets holding that 6th seed in the West right now, 25-17. They're doing pretty well, and I think they're going to keep climbing the ladder.
Yeah. Right now they'd face the Lakers in the first round, so maybe avoid that if you could.
Yeah. We'll see. All right, let me go ahead. We're going to shift to the hockey. I think we got some chats coming through. Scott, do you want to handle those?
Yeah. Mayday's just you can thank that Sixers game too, but the Jazz and a cold streak when Mitchell threw a fit. Oh yeah. Mitchell freaked out at the end of a game. I think he got ejected actually.
Did he?
If I remember correctly. Yeah, he was just being, Am I mistaken that basically LeBron announced this week that everyone hates Utah? But he said in the way, maybe not this week, in the last few weeks, he said even when you were a kid playing video games, no one ever played with the Utah Jazz because you hated them.
That was when they were. That was the voting for the All-Star game. Is when he said that when they were drafting the teams, and he was like, because of those teams, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell were the absolute last picked teams or players on each team, and they both came from the top-ranked Utah Jazz, and everyone was like on the TNT panel was freaking out. They were just like, "What are you talking about? Why are you guys hating on the Jazz?" He's like, "I'm not hating on them. I don't hate them. I just never played on them with my you don't pick the Jazz in a video game." He was like, "Oh, John Stockton, Karl Malone, those guys are great, but you never played with those guys in NBA Jam. You didn't mess around with that." Yep. It's like, man, yep. It's brutal. But yeah, Jazz, they're falling off.
The thing with the NBA that's about to get interesting as we progress through this COVID pandemic and whatnot is, so the Nuggets and Avs just announced starting in April, so they haven't had really fans all year at Ball Arena, as we now know it, in Denver for the Nuggets and Avs games. They announced starting in April, they're going to have 4,500 fans. And then maybe by the time playoffs happen, maybe they're up to close to 50%, which could make a big difference. Like the Nuggets right now are 12-9 at home and 13-8 on the road, which is very uncharacteristic for the Nuggets. Nuggets usually like dominate at home, are decently solid on the road, but really, really take care of business at home. And they haven't done that this year. They haven't had the fan base there. As the fan base is able to grow, I hope for all teams, like that's gonna be fun. You want fans back in the stands. I don't want these I don't know. In Denver here, maybe 10,000 fans. I know we haven't talked about the Rockies, but the Rockies are going to start in April with just over 21,000 fans. So things are looking up. Sounds like we're closer and closer, inching closer to being back to real life.
Yeah. No, it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to get some of the fans back in the stands. Now, let's shift over to hockey. I know, May Day. By the way, May Day, we were talking about some of the MVP. I don't know, now that your boy Joel Embiid is out for a little bit, do you see a shift in who you like for MVP candidate, and if so, who? I'd love to hear your and don't say Jokic because we're Nuggets fans. Like, who do you think would be a good fit for that? And now, Jokic is the favorite, but I'd love to hear your side of things. Now, as far as hockey goes, the Avalanche had a good week. As far as the Philadelphia Flyers, actually, they're not doing as bad as I would have thought. Because there was a couple games I watched and they didn't play very well, but they are 4-6-0 in their last 10, so they're still dead center of the pack right now. It's not. It could be better for sure. But they're not.
It could be a lot better.
But I mean, they're 15-11, 4 overtime. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they're still in range here. I still think that they're going to be there. So, we'll talk a little bit about them here in a little bit. Mayday doesn't even want to talk about it. All right, we won't talk about them. How about that? But the Avs. Let's talk about the Avs here. Avs had a 3-0 week. Go ahead, Scotty.
No, yeah, the Avs absolutely destroyed this week. That Anaheim game they had at the start, they were actually down early. I think Anaheim scored 4 goals in their first 7 shots, and it was Grubauer, the starting goaltender for the Avs, was out for this game, and they had their backup in, and then they had to put Grubauer in after the backup gave up 4 goals and 7 shots. Grubauer gave up nothing. The Avs just took care of business after that and put up an 8 spot, as you normally do in a hockey game.
Oh, yeah.
And took care of business. And since then, I need to look this up. The Avs have traded for a backup goaltender.
Correct. Yep.
Jonas Johansson.
Yep.
Traded a 6th-round pick from the Sabres. He's not going to be the starter. No one freak out. It's not going to be. But you can't have Grubauer playing every game. You got to give him rest. You got to allow some other, guys to play. And this guy is going to provide a lot better backup than what they had before. So that game was good in 2 regards. They were able to win easily. And at the same time, figure out that they had to change who their backup goaltender was because it just wasn't working out. So we're looking good. And then you get the next 2 games against the Minnesota Wild, which they actually went in 1 point behind the Wild before these 2 games in the standings, and they took it to them 5-1, 6-0. I think now I got to look NHL standing wise. I think the Avs are now. So let me scroll through this. Second best goal differential in all the NHL. So they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're plus 32 after having a week this week, obviously, when they were plus 13 in 3 games. So
yeah,
they're on a 6-game win streak. They're on the up and up. They're second in their division behind Vegas, who I think they're facing relatively soon. So we'll see what happens. You have it right here in this week's matchup.
Correct.
They are playing Vegas at the latter part of the week, so they have an opportunity to move into first, but nothing wrong with being second, especially because it doesn't overly matter. You just got to be in the top 4 in your division to make the playoffs. So
yeah,
they're looking good. They're looking real good.
Yeah, Mayday. Avs are the Avs. Really good in the regular season, but what they do in the postseason, that's where the season starts. Yeah, and I think that's where I think it's going to be interesting to see how they end up carrying this momentum, because right now they're doing what they should have been doing early on that we would have expected them to. They just have taken a little bit of time to get to this point. And now they're starting to hit their stride a little bit more. They're starting to get healthy again. They got a couple guys back from injury. Makar came back. A couple of defensemen that were banged up are coming back. So the fact that that's starting to right the ship a little bit, I think that's going to be a big addition as well. You mentioned that trade for the backup goaltender we used with Miksha over the course of the last few games, and it hasn't exactly been great. Now, Miksa was recently set down to Colorado Eagles, as far as he was recalled back, because he just hasn't exactly been doing very well. He's struggled, has a 4.16 goal against average, which isn't great. Now, Johansson, we traded, I think it was, what was it?
It was a sixth
round pick. Now, he's 0-5-1 in 7 games with the Sabres. 3.79 goals against average, 8.844, 884 save percentage, overall record of 1-8-2.
Sabres are also the worst team in the NHL.
Exactly. Yeah. He was a 3rd-round pick by Buffalo in 2014. So I mean, he's not exactly leaps and bounds better than Miksa by any means, but I mean, you need good backup goaltending, especially considering the Avs have had kind of a rough history over the last couple seasons of getting goalies banged up and not being available when you need them the most.
Yeah, so, Mayday talks about the Avs not producing in the playoffs, but they made it to a Game 7 last year in the Western Conference semifinals. They were playing their 3rd-string goaltender. That's what they were down to in the playoffs because their other 2 got hurt. They were out without some other key components. So if they're healthy, the Avs should be the odds-on favorite to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup this year. If they're healthy, Grubauer is having the best season of his career in goal. We just have so much offensive firepower. Nathan McKinnon's the most talented player in the NHL, in my opinion. Maybe we have a NBA NHL sweep of MVP trophy. We'll see. I don't know if McKinnon gets in the NHL, but I think the Avs are. If I was going to put money on who's going to make it further in the playoffs between the Nuggets and Avs, it's a no-brainer. It's Avs for me.
100%. Mayday, boys, I'm on the East Coast. Good night. Talk to you whenever you guys are back on. Well, hey. Thanks for popping in, Mayday, even for a little bit. Love that you came in and got the chat rolling. We will see you on the next stream on Wednesday. So catch you then. Have a great night, my friend. As far as this goes, Avalanche, I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot this week, and we'll see what happens. I think as far as this goes, all of the stars for the Avs have been like just popping off, especially, when you have games where you're scoring 8, 5, and 6, like you're getting production from a lot of guys. So, and actually the first game against Anaheim, the Avs trailed 4-2 after 1. They were down 4-2. So it didn't look good. Then they pulled, I think they pulled the goaltender. I think it was Miksa. And then they scored 2 in the second and 4 in the third to catch back up in that one. So as far as that goes, that was kind of a scary start to the game, but Avalanche ended up riding the ship there. On Thursday in Minnesota, 5-1. The top line, McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen combined for 4 goals. And then they beat the Minnesota team 5-1, snapping the Wild's 5-game winning streak. So, stopping streaks there, that's fantastic. When you're getting production from your top line like that, man, it feels really, really good.
That's the best line in hockey. No one else can match up with Landeskog, McKinnon, and Rantanen top line. Like, that's the best line in hockey, no doubt, offensively, at least.
Yeah, it's hard to compete. You can't stop that. It's incredible. And then even in some of these other games too, Rantanen scored twice for the Avalanche in the that Minnesota game. Hitting his second with 6:30 left in the third period on a backhand shot. I mean, man, they're fantastic right now. The teams have met 5 times this season. Colorado holding a 3-2 edge at that point, and then it ended up being another win in the 6-0. The 6-0 win on Saturday. Grubauer on that Saturday game made 31 saves. Landeskog had a goal, 2 assists. Cale Makar had a goal and an assist. He's back. He's not hurt anymore, which is really good. McKinnon had 3 assists, and Mikko Rantanen scored his 3rd goal in 2 games in that one. Like, again, you're getting production from the guys you need it from. Minnesota came to Denver on a roll, but was dominated in 2 losses. The Wild were outshot 97-51 in 2 games and outscored 11-1 to fall 3 points behind the Avalanche in that West Division. That top line of McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen combined for 17 points in 2 games against the Wild. Crazy.
The Avs outshoot every team by an absurd amount. So they're always the best team on the ice. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They just need goaltending to hold up on the back, and Grubauer's playing well when he's in. So I feel really good. I feel like they have an opportunity by the end of this week to move into first in the division and take over Vegas. If they can sweep that 2-game set with Vegas, they should be able to do that. So we'll see what happens. Another update, though, back to March Madness real quick. We got 1 game going on. We had Oklahoma State down 18, I think, at one point in the first half, down 14 at the half, have come out to 16-8 start to the second half. So they're now down only 6, 52-46, 13 minutes ago, a lot of time to play. Now 47, they were at the line. 52-47, 5-point game, 13 minutes to go. So all of a sudden we got a close game after it looked like a runaway for Oregon State in that first half.
Yeah, no, it's definitely coming down to the wire. I think obviously definitely shifting in that game from what it was in the first half.
Let's go Pokes.
Now let's go ahead. Let's wrap up here with some Broncos updates real quick. I know the Broncos have made some moves. One, they ended up not bringing back Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay was our hometown boy. We won't be able to hear that on the broadcast anymore. Every single time we see a Broncos game where they talk about him going to hometown schools all the way through his upbringing and hometown hero, those are gone. He's in Houston, signing a deal with the Houston Texans, which I don't know why you would want to, but hey, it is what it is. There's not a lot down there, but obviously he wasn't feeling the love from Denver, which is kind of unfortunate. I thought he was a guy that I would love to see still stay here, but unfortunately not. But on the other end, Broncos end up bringing in another guy that was not brought back. Kyle Fuller, cornerback, agrees to a 1-year, $9.5 million deal. Obviously, Von Miller's coming back from recent news that you might have heard or may not have heard. So Broncos kind of doing some things, especially from the defensive back area of the field, trying to get some guys into the backfield that can start, producing a little bit more. So Kyle Fuller is going to be hopefully that stopgap from where we had absolutely nothing last season. So, Scotty, what do you think about some of the moves over the course of the last week for the Denver Broncos?
I was honestly surprised by the Von Miller thing. That takes up a lot of your cap on a 1-year deal that seems like it's just a 1-year thing. Like, I don't think Von Miller, wouldn't it be better to save that cap space and go out and sign a guy that can be with your team for multiple years, that's younger, and you can develop along with your team? Because your team, listen, the Broncos aren't winning the Super Bowl this year. Yeah, it's not going to happen with Von Miller on the roster. And he's going to be gone after this year, I feel like he's going to be gone. He of course, didn't want to take a pay cut, and then they agreed to, pay him what he was guaranteed this year. And then he was essentially came out on Instagram and was like, oh, I want to stay here forever. I want to be a Bronco forever. No, he doesn't. That was all just bullshit. If you want to be a Bronco forever, you would have renegotiated your contract.
It would have been a better deal.
Yeah, you would have made it better for the Broncos. Broncos chose to keep him for a year. Maybe they just felt like there wasn't a better option. I love the Kyle Fuller signing. Kyle Fuller is legit. He's a really good player. That's going to help them a lot in their most needed position, which was cornerback. Ronald Darby, their other guy they signed, the other corner, don't love him nearly as much as Kyle Fuller. He's injury prone. He's not that great even when he's playing. Paying him $10 million seemed like a drastic overpay. So in that respect, didn't love that signing. Kyle Fuller, great signing. I don't mind them letting go of Philip Lindsay. Listen, the reason they're getting rid of Philip Lindsay is because they have Melvin Gordon, which I never understood why they got Melvin Gordon in the first place. But once you're paying Melvin Gordon, then it makes sense to get rid of Philip Lindsay. But running back's not a position where I would invest if I were a GM of a team. I would not invest heavily in the running back position because they, one, don't have a long shelf life, dime a dozen kind of thing. Like a lot of it's based on your blocking and this and that. Like there's only 3 to 4 guys at the running back position, in my opinion, in the league that are like difference makers that you should pay. And Philip Lindsay's not that guy. Melvin Gordon's not that guy, but they're paying him a lot too. So it makes sense that they let him go. They don't want to. When he was in the game, they were always running these outside zone pitch plays. It was obvious what they were running when he was in the game. So if you're not going to do other things with him, you can't have him in. So
yeah,
I don't hate it as much as other people who were, obviously the CU ties and wanted to watch him succeed. We'll see what he does on a 1-year deal in Houston. I think he'll get a lot of carries, and we'll see who their quarterback is. Whether that's Deshaun or they signed Tyrod Taylor this week. Houston did. So even as a backup, he's probably just as good as Drew Lock.
Well,
there's the problem with the Broncos. Whatever the Broncos do, who's your quarterback? Your quarterback's Drew Lock.
Well, and this also we're probably going to cover a lot of this on our Wednesday show, but I mean, Deshaun Watson hasn't exactly been hiding from the news recently.
Nope.
And that could be something that could deter some teams. There were some teams that were high. I mean, obviously, Carolina was high on them, Broncos, San Francisco. Those teams have been mentioned, in association with potentially luring him away from Houston. But we're going to talk about this on Wednesday. We'll tease this a little bit on what we think about how that's going to affect the pursuit of a Deshaun Watson, because he's got a lot of things hitting him all at once. When this came out, and there was one allegation of some of this legal information coming out from one source, he discarded it, saying, that's there's no base to some of these sexual allegations. All of a sudden, you have one after another, and the NFL is looking into this on how they're going to handle this with suspensions and different things. There could be a lot that could deter some of these teams from chasing him after everything that's come out. So we're going to touch on that on Wednesday, and that's going to be a big, big topic along with everything. This is a big time of the year, Scotty. We have a lot going on, man.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. We'll fit that in because I have maybe some differing opinions than you on that. We actually haven't talked about it, but
no,
it's interesting for sure. So we'll talk about that along with the tournament, of course. You still have free agency in the NFL going on.
Yep.
We're really close to the start of the Major League Baseball season. That's gonna get started in just over a week. I think 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks from now. Major League Baseball regular season starts. So, and then we're not far from the Masters. I know you're not a golf guy, but man, that's early on in April, and I can't wait for that either.
Yeah, the Masters. I mean, hey, I'll put a couple bets on the Masters, and I'll be all about the Masters. It'll be a lot of fun. So no, there's a lot of stuff coming up. We're so happy that all of you guys ended up joining us for this show. We had a lot of fun with everybody here. Anyone who contributed, Mayday and Deb, Steph, Belly, everyone who was part of this, Phoenix. Thank you for Yeah, thank you for popping in, making sure that you guys, throughout your opinions, comments, everything means a lot. If you're here, again, hit that follow button on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We're on all the platforms, but it means a lot just to be a part of it. Join the Action Lab. Join the lab rats that are already in here and having a good time. And we love to see familiar faces. Obviously, Mayday, our boy from Philly out there. We want to have more of you like that. We're just popping in, and it's nice to catch up. So we will see you all back here on Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be our 7:30 Mountain, 9:30 East Coast show. We're going to be covering some national news again. Deshaun Watson, the tournament, NCAA tournament, any kind of updates there. Any kind of news going on for you. There's so much happening, guys. Keep it here, locked and loaded on Wednesday, and we can't wait to see you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. See you guys Wednesday.